So nowadays, pretty much anyone has a drone, and being able to stand out from the crowd is not very easy. You either have to be on a very amazing looking location that is truly exceptional, or you have to work to make your footage look better, sound better, and generally appeal more to the viewer. So in today's video, I will share 5 little tips on how to make your drone footage stand out and to show that you are willing to put in the work to make your footage look more professional. The first tip that I have for you is to always choose the right music track for your footage. And I know I've mentioned that before, but it seems many people are putting that on the back of their minds and are not really thinking about the music when shooting. And I think it's a big mistake to never think about the music until you start editing. In many situations, I choose my music before I even go out to shoot, and I already have an idea in my mind about what I need to shoot, how I need to shoot it, and how long these clips that I'm shooting need to be in order to fit the music. And of course, that's not a super specific thing to do. I just have a rough idea of what the music is, how it's going to match together with the footage I'm shooting. And in many situations, I tend to shoot longer clips just so I can have more freedom to trim the footage afterwards, or speed ramp it, or edit it in a way that fits the music that I'm going for. And something else that I always do is to place the music that I have selected on my timeline without any other footage, and simply put markers on the track where I think the footage should change. If you want to add a marker to your project, all you need to do is select the audio track and press M where you want your marker to be added. So I just added this one here. And as you can see, I have already added all of these markers where I want the footage to change. So that really makes it much easier to edit afterwards when you know how long the footage needs to be. This really makes a big difference in my opinion, and it's something that unfortunately many people overlook. But if you take a look at a movie trailer or a commercial or something else, you see that almost every single time the edit that they've done is synced to the beat of the music. That's just simply because it's a mind trick that you kind of expect the footage to change on that specific beat drop, and when it does, it kind of creates like a synergy between the music and the video. So that's something that I love doing, and I highly advise you to use that to your advantage. And finally, to finish on that first tip, which by the way became extra long, something that I love doing is to add sound effects. The sound effects can really emphasize the feeling that you're going for, can really create an atmosphere that sounds more natural for the viewer. Because if you just put your drone footage together with the music, even if it's synced to the beat, it's all right, but adding those little touches with some sound effects really makes the whole difference. So in the footage that you saw in the intro, I have added some effects for birds singing in the forest, a little sound effect for the wind, some effects of water splashing against the boat, and a few other whooshes and little effects that I think make all the difference and just finish off the whole edit. So here is my project for the footage that you saw in the beginning of this video. Here are all the effects: the splash boat, the riser, the wind, the birds, some harbor ambient sound, and some other effects here. And if I disable the track here and play the whole clip, you will hear only the effects. And I highly recommend you to put on your headphones so you can hear the effects better, and just to listen to what the difference is when you put those effects into your footage. So that was tip number 1, and I promise none of these other tips will be that long. So let's jump to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to not be afraid to use sport mode. Especially in the footage that you saw in the intro, everything was so wide open. There were no obstacles. I was flying high, and there were no problems to actually use sport mode to my advantage, because otherwise the drone is moving so slow. And when you switch to sport mode, especially if you're going just one way, so simply forward or backwards or sideways, sport mode can really make your footage better, because it speeds up the drone. Of course, if you want it to be smooth, you have to be really precise with the controls, but use it to your advantage. If you need to cover a large distance, you can be very precise and just put the drone to go forward and use the little adjustment wheel for the gimbal to make some small smooth adjustments in your footage. I think that makes a big difference if you compare it to regular flying in cinematic mode or even in normal mode. The drone is so much slower, so sometimes that saves you not only time, but also the footage you're recording is actually faster. So if you decide to use sport mode, just be aware that all your sensors would be switched off. So you need to be very confident in your flying, and you also need to be completely sure that there are no obstacles around you. Tip number 3 is to use speed ramping, and speed ramping is one of my absolute favorite things to do when I'm editing my footage, simply because you can really emphasize on the movement on the drone in a specific time frame of your footage. So in case there is a large beat drop and you want to emphasize on it with the footage, you can speed ramp it to fit that beat drop, and it's really easy to do. I'll show you how I do it. So here we have the clip to which I'm going to apply the speed ramp effect, and as you can see, it starts with a normal speed, it has the speed ramping in the middle, and it ends with normal speed. So let me just play it once for you so you can see it in action. Alright, now what I'm going to do is delete it, and I have the same clip here to which I'm going to hit reset speed, which is pretty much going to erase all the changes to the speed that I've made so far, and I'm going to place it here. So now what we need to do is, we already know that we want the speed ramping part to be somewhere around the middle of the clip. So we need to select 3 parts. The first part, which is going to be in normal speed, so that's going to be something like here up until here, and I'll press Shift and B. And the second part is going to be roughly the same length, and I'll press Shift and B again. And now we end up with this middle portion, which we need to speed up. And I'm going to speed it up by going to this little arrow and hit Custom. And I'll speed it up by, let's just say, 12,000%. It's quite a big number, but trust me, it's what we need for this situation. Now I'll just quickly trim this clip so it fits the frame, and let's just play it so we see what's going on. And that's it. It's really easy to do. What we can do now is to play with these sliders here to smoothen the whole transition effect between the normal speed and the sped up part. But that's pretty much the whole idea behind how you can speed ramp your footage very, very easily. My next tip is that if you have an interesting object in your footage and you want to focus on it, you can use different angles with your drone to show it off in a different way. So in my example, this boat that I shot, I tried to introduce it at first by using a reveal shot from a very large distance. Then I threw in a couple of different shots that were also on the boat, but from different angles. And I think that makes a big difference to show unique angles of the objects that you're filming. Just make sure you're not overdoing that. You don't want to show the boat from 20 different angles, because the viewer will get bored from this. But if you stick to maybe 2 or 3 unique angles, and one of them being a reveal shot, one of them being a close-up shot, and one of them being, let's say, an orbit shot, then I think that makes a real difference compared to just one shot that goes from one side to another. And my final tip is, please don't keep your drone footage too long. Keep it short and nice, maybe 2 minutes maximum 3 minutes if it's a really interesting, cool location. If you change the location, of course, you can make it even longer. If you combine a couple of different places, that's fine. But if you're only on one specific location, and nowadays people's attention span is very short, so if you upload a drone footage that is maybe 5 minutes long, I can promise you that nobody's going to watch it all the way through. So keep it short, try to fit the best shots only, try to fit the smoothest shots only, the ones that you are proud of, and even if it's a bit too short, it's better than footage that is too long. So that's pretty much it. Those are my 5 tips on how to make your drone footage stand out from the crowd, and I believe if you start incorporating them, even though they are very simple, they would make a big difference in your footage. So please let me know if you found them useful or interesting, and if you're willing to incorporate them in your workflow. Give this video a like if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos like this one. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.